We've gone inside the Barcelona system. We talked about the Danish geometry of development. We talked about parachutes. We talked about cameras. But this episode brings us to something much simpler. We're putting a whole reset here. It's a ball, a player, a wall, pressure, failure, and standards. Because before we talk about pathways and academies, recruiting, or the next level, there's a harder question sitting underneath all of it. Does your kid actually want to do the hard work?
And that's what makes this conversation with Brian Chun and Edson Elcock so useful. This is not a glossy version of player development. It's not cones, parachutes, Instagram drills, or pretending every kid is on the same path. It's about repetition, hunger, honesty, the gap between wanting the idea of soccer and wanting the work of soccer.
Yeah, two separate things. Brian says something in this episode that every parent should sit with. Sometimes the best thing a trainer can do is not sell you another session. It's to ask whether the player really wants to be there.
So today we're talking about the nitty-gritty of development, the tough love, what kids need to hear and do on their own, what parents often misunderstand, what trainers can and cannot fix, and why the simplest truths are often the hardest ones to hear.
This is Chasing the Game Youth Soccer in America. The hard truth delivered. Let's go. Edson and Brian, welcome to Chasing the Game. What makes this conversation interesting to Matt and I, and hopefully our audience, is that you both lived on both sides of the ecosystem. Brian, you're inside youth development every day. Edson, you're on the player side, the college, the draft, the pro game. So before we go a little bit into where we are today, can each one of you walk us a little bit through how you got here and what your road is? Brian, let's just start with you.
I'm originally from Maryland, from the Baltimore area. I grew up in the soccer system in Maryland, and then played ODP, club soccer growing up. Had some opportunities overseas when I was 16 to get on some pro trials. Didn't work out. So then I went the college route. I went to Marshall University in West Virginia, and I had a good experience there. But unfortunately, that's where it all stopped for me as a player. And then moved up to New York. And then my buddy had a soccer school. And then that's how I got into the side training, which started in 2020 for me.
I'm originally from Trinidad. I moved here when I was about 10 years old, and I started playing in a regular club team. It was basically a bunch of immigrants, a bunch of Caribbean people, a bunch of Caribbean kids. One of the dads created the team, and we were all playing on the same team together. We were playing Cosmopolitan. That was basically the top league in New York City at the time, or Brooklyn, or the 5 boroughs. After a few years there, we started doing like guest players and stuff like that. I moved over to Yo. I played for Yo for about a year, another year and a half maybe. And then I switched over to Silver Lake, a team in Staten Island. After playing club, I got a scholarship to Old Dominion University. But due to grades and stuff like that, I had to go to Wingate University, Division II, played there for a year, got my grades up, and then eventually transferred over to Old Dominion. And I played there until I was a senior, graduated. I was fortunate enough to get drafted in the in the MLS draft. For me in the MLS, I never played a game in the MLS. I played more for the reserve team, but that experience alone, I learned so much. I was around so many great players. I was around Eddie Johnson, Captain America, Jimmy Conrad. Those are the people that I had my first experience as a professional to be around. So I learned a lot behind the scenes, how those guys approach the game and stuff like that. I took that with me. After I got released from Kansas City, I ended up in Puerto Rico. I played for the Islanders for a year, for one season. I scored my first 2 professional goals as an Islander. That was the most amazing feeling. After that, I finished my career the last 5 years with the Richmond Kickers. I ended up helping them win a USL championship my first year. We went back to the finals, I think my second or third year there. We lost to Charleston. And yeah, I think it was about 5 seasons I played there. And after a while, I don't know what it was. I kept coming back to New York, and I would always go back to Brooklyn, and I would always go to Brooklyn Friends, and they'd always give me an opportunity to coach. And that was my end to coaching. I had no experience at all. It was just using all the stuff that I learned from these guys and my experience all over the place. And I started doing stuff there. And one season I just said, yeah, this is going to be my last one. And I ended up coaching there for about 5 seasons. I coached the boys varsity team there. Fast forward, doing some individual trainings. Me and Brian, we just share the same concept, the same idea of how kids should be talked to, the way kids should be trained, just the idea of the sport. just how you should approach it really. And I think we share those same dynamics and those same ideas. So that's kind of what brought us together, I think.
Hey, Edson, thank you for that. When you look back, what environments really moved you forward and what turned out to be just noise in the system for you?
Wow. The funny thing about the noise in the system, I think that's something that I realized later on. You didn't really pay attention to it as a kid. Everyone's saying, oh, you're so good, you got to do this, you're going to do this. And it wasn't until later on you realize, like, you're not that good. There's so many other people. By the time I got to college, I had this thing in my head. I was like, oh, you're so good. And I'm playing against people that are just as good. I have to fight for my spot. So I think the club level was it was one of those. I think that's really like they try to gas you up. It's like a lot of like smoke. I think you get a lot of smoke from in the club levels because the idea, especially even back then, the idea was to win. You know what I mean? It was never about developing the player. It was about winning. I feel like I developed myself as a player growing up. I didn't do individual trainings with anyone else. I did that stuff by myself. You know what I mean? I got better from just watching certain things on TV. I think I've learned more from watching the game on TV than from coaches as a kid. I just picked up little nuances. That's just something that I think that we both share, but in different ways. Brian had the experience kind of that I would have loved. He had the trials in Belgium and the trials in Brazil and those things. Like when I was growing up, I didn't really give a shit about the MLS or the USL. I didn't even know anything about it. I was watching European soccer, So for me, like that was the end all be all. If you didn't get there, then it's like, what the hell are you doing? And from my mindset, it was just like I wanted to do the things that he experienced. I didn't get to do that. So I still had this opportunity to take whatever I did here and try to transfer it over to, again, the trainings that we do. I learned the finishing drills that I do with some of these kids. I learned that from Eddie Johnson, watching Eddie Johnson after practice. I learned that stuff from him, just watching him do it every single training, after every single training. And it worked for me as I got older. Those were the type of things I would do by myself for training. Now, I wasn't an elite finisher as Eddie Johnson was, but for me, it worked. And coaching it, I've seen it work. Right. So it's really important I think for both of us to take the things that we got from our past and incorporate it now. I was like, dude, pass the ball from point A to point B. Take somebody on when you have the chance. The game hasn't really changed that much. The game is really simple.
Right.
It's really simple.
So yeah, I mean, I just rolled over everything that I've learned from growing up and then just brought it to what I'm teaching now.
Brian, when you say that, are you talking specifically about technical aspects of the game, tactical aspects of the game?
Yeah, the technical
how you
approach.
train.
Yeah, very just simple technical training, and do it with intensity, and then I can add my own twist to it from guys who I've learned from when I first started. So it's a little bit mix of what I've learned in the past and now.
I mean, the paths were so different. And now you fast forward. Now when you look at the different pathways that kids have in front of them, there's definitely more pathways. Do you think it's more clear? Do you think it's even murkier in some ways?
I'm a very harsh critic on how the U.S. has been going about soccer in general. I think there's too many different paths, meaning like, if this one doesn't work for my kid, then we can go to this one. If this one doesn't work for my kid, we can go to this one. There's too much jumping around to make stuff easier for the kid. It's like, if you don't make this team, we have to get better. We have to work harder, right? I just think it makes it too easy for kids to have this idea that, oh, I'm definitely going to make it. Like, I remember by the time I was 15, I wanted to become a professional, but I had people telling me, it's like, yeah, there's a lot to do before you think you could get to that point. You know what I mean? Like a lot of the club folks were in your ear telling you how good you are. I had a realistic environment around me that was saying, you got to work. Everyone doesn't have that. And a lot of the times I feel like if you don't have that, then it's just, well, let's go find the next one. Go find the next option. It's like, I feel like you're running away from it rather than going to it.
Yeah, I'm seeing it the same way. It's just too many outlets now. It's just been watered down. Before it was just a little bit more cutthroat, and we had one team. There wasn't there wasn't B, C, D teams. Like some of these clubs these days, you got 5 teams,
like 5
age
teams.
group. So it's like, yeah. So you either made the team or you didn't. and you're either the top team in the state. And if you're the top team in the state, you try to go for the top team in the region, and then you play for a national championship. The competitiveness, the grittiness was just more of it back then. I feel like now it's just, I can't even keep track of all the leagues and stuff that's going on now.
Edson, you said the word simple, and Brian, you and I have spoken before many times. You were talking about playing with both feet, simple stuff, passing, receiving, 1v1, being sharp on your feet, very simple stuff. Let's unpack that a little bit. I mean, do you think that this kind of simple training is lost today in modern youth soccer?
I scroll on Instagram and, the algorithm shows all these other trainers. And yeah, I don't see much of the simple stuff, to be honest. And every time, like at training, like these kids are trying to shoot. I'm just like, stop shooting, just pass. You got to get to the goal first. Just do one-touch passing. That's all you need to do. These parents ask me, how did my kid get better? He needs to train on his own. Okay, all he needs is a ball. Really, have some imagination. You don't even really need cones. Put out some shoes, just work on both feet. Passing against a wall, just repetition, just the simple stuff. I don't really see much of that these days.
I feel like if you go to a training session, whether it's in Brooklyn, Queens, anywhere in the tri-state or anywhere in this country, and to a certain degree throughout the world now, most of the sessions look fairly similar. You're going to see discs all over the place. You're going to see kids in pennies. You're going to see one or two coaches organizing it. And by the way, I'm not saying that there's not great coaches. I'm not saying there's not great training sessions and there's not a ton of thought that goes into it. It just seems like it's a lot of the same from what I see here, what we discover, more people we talk to in different locations too.
I see it. All these guys are being taught the same stuff from a book.
Yeah.
Not experience, not like what I went through, not from a book. That's not creativity. It's like almost like you're trying to train robots. You're trying to create robots. The fact that you just said that almost every single session that you can go to would literally look the same.
Yeah.
That's a lack of creativity.
The coaches themselves, and then of course it translates
absolutely
to the kids.
Absolutely. We have to teach structure.
Of course.
Right? But when the entire session is structured, where's the creativity coming from? That's why it's so frustrating at times when myself and Brian, we have the sessions in the summers and we're like, take them on. They're so used to taking on cones. They're being taught to take on cones rather than players. That's not a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, Brian, you said to me a couple times, you used the word robotic. You said that you feel that a lot of the kids that come through your program, there's a robotic quality to them. I mean, is that part of what we're talking about here?
Yeah, it's synchronized way of playing the game. It's like just they're training with all these cones. There's pressure. They don't know what the hell to do.
Mm-hmm.
The cones look good, but then add some pressure and add pressure in tight space and see how they do it, right?
Everything is scripted. And then when it gets to the point when you have to use this outside of the box, they don't know how to step outside of the box because they've only read these lines for so many times. They're only reading these lines and reading the script. Get out of the box. Be creative.
I heard something a few weeks ago from a coach who I have a ton of respect for, who mentioned to me that you can see the kids who are overtraining by how they actually walk and stand. He's like, there's kids who are like almost crouched over. And then even when they're dribbling, they're so crouched over the ball because they're so used to working in and out of cones that they don't even almost know how to be upright, right? So I've kind of started to pay attention to it a little bit when I walk past a park or if I'm at one of my kids' games. And it's kind of interesting, right?
And then what happens when you're crouched down? Your vision goes to the ground.
Yeah.
You can't see anything around.
So again, yeah.
You might as well just be out there by yourself, right?
And that's the thing I see in these kids a lot is their heads are down, right? So they struggle with decision making.
So you can't miss a disc.
Yeah, you gotta make sure you get all of them. So the training's got to be realistic, and it could be simple and realistic and effective. And I just try to put all those things together. And I think we all agree that just playing is the best development. You don't have cones when you're playing. You got pressure. It's realistic.
Mm-hmm.
Just run around.
And use your imagination. Like Edson said, growing up, I didn't have to train or anything. I just played and I watched soccer and I tried the stuff that I saw on TV. And a lot of these kids that I see doing these skills, and I'm like, where did you learn that? They're like FIFA Street, the video game. I'm like, great. Whoa. The good. That was free. Right? I told you that was free. I learned that. And he executed. And the same thing with playing. So yeah, the natural way of just watching and trying trying what you see on TV and just trying it and then trying it in your backyard with friends and then in practice. It's just still a way to develop. I think that's still the best way to develop.
Yeah.
We can't get away from the fact that we obviously grew up at a totally different time, right? Less distractions. Your parents are sending you outside to go do stuff. Even if you don't have friends, you go make friends. You know what I mean? So you had to be outside. You had to go play. But for me, the one thing I do remember as a kid was even when it was raining, I would be inside of my apartment or the house when we were in Trinidad, and I would just be dribbling around with a little ball or anything that was around, and I'd be kicking the hell out of it. But for me, the thing is, our kids, they've lost that kind of creativity. You just, like I said, like that thinking outside of the box. I don't have anything to do inside. What can I do? I'm going to go play. I can still play.
Edson, you just mentioned something about creativity. I think there are certain environments, certain clubs, nationally, locally, where you can go and see kids at 10, 11, 12, super creative, right? And there's not all of them, but there's a good number, more than I would say we give credit towards. But for some reason, when you look at that same kid as a U19 player or a U18 player, that creativity seems to get squeezed out of them somehow. And if you look at what we're producing on the global scale, in the global market and coming from within the US, we still seem like we're lacking these creative players. But I mean, I was walking past Brooklyn Bridge Park this weekend and saw, I think it was NYCFC's 2015 team. There was a lot of creativity on the pitch. I mean, it was incredible. But then what happens when you get to U17, U19? Like, why are these kids losing some of that creative flow to their game?
I think it kind of goes back to the coaching styles. Concentrate more on team style of play, playing out of the back, the new modern way of, and kids get suffocated that way. Now they are restricted to only 2 touches and 3 touches, like practice session. Again, if you go across the world, they're not being coached like that. Kids are not being coached like that. They're being coached to perform, to change games. They're being made to be game changers.
It's such a great way. Nobody's talked to use that. It's such a great way to look at it, right?
It's very different than everything we've heard so far, and it's amazing. I love that idea of just simple soccer, right? Brian, you talked to me before. You said that you wish you had kind of an older brother or a mentor that could guide you through your career, and I think this will be very important for parents who are listening to this. Can you explain what you meant by that?
Yeah, I mean, I had a mentor, but not someone who I could really call up whenever I wanted, when my career was down and I needed that voice to get me motivated again and to keep working. It's just, I didn't have much of it back then. A lot of it was just my friends. I didn't have that older figure. I wish I had an older brother who went through the soccer experience and have gone through it and would help give me those tips to just stay with it and to keep working. Now there's so many resources that, and so many training programs that you could find them a lot easier than back then. All of these programs, the coaches are mentors to these kids. You could find just motivational clips on Instagram to help you, maybe change that light bulb in your head when, things aren't going well.
The difference is kids today think that they one reel about the Mamba mentality and they have it.
Instantly. It's magic.
It's magic.
Magic.
Yeah, exactly. So I had to figure it by myself. It wasn't easy, but I wish I had that person who I could call and to, help me when times weren't going well.
How much of development gets misunderstood because people focus so much on technical ability or tactical understanding and not enough on the guidance? Like when to push, when to wait, when to change environments, when to stick it out, like how serious you actually need to be, right? Like, how do you weigh those things?
I mean, the thing for me about development is you don't ever stop really developing, right? It's learning. Developing is learning. So, and what better way to get better than learning the simplest way to do something, get better and better at that. I always tell kids, when you're never shooting, you're finishing, right? You're trying to get the ball in the goal. The idea of shooting is hitting the ball as hard as possible. Everybody can hit the ball as hard as possible. When you're finishing, you have mastered the art or the way of passing the ball into the goal, developing different ways of passing the ball, different weight of the pass, different weight of the ball, the way that the ball comes off of the grass, the spin off of how do you hit it? If you have that in a kid's head from the earliest, you don't have to keep telling them how to develop. That's already there. Now, developing is understanding the way that, like I said, the way that a ball skips off of the grass, just watching it in the air, and you know that it's going to skip off of the grass before you hit it. So you know when and how you should hit it. That to me is development. I think the earlier we have that mentality into kids, the easier it's going to be for them to get better.
You think with all the resources that are going into youth soccer, you still think that's missing? So you guys work with a lot of kids, so you've really good perspective on it.
I think that's a big thing that's still missing. Yeah, I personally think so. Yeah.
It's almost reading what's coming without like the unexpected, right?
Mm-hmm.
The idea of the ball on the grass is a perfect example because you can't teach that. That's something that you have to see it and experience it 1,000 times to know how a ball is going to come and hit a certain way on the grass.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I get it. But so you were talking before about this idea of communicating with the kids early enough, because in your days, it was pretty cutthroat. Like you knew at a certain stage if you could progress or not. Do you think we're telling the kids the truth early enough these days? And if we're not, what would be like a compounding error that a kid would keep on making if they didn't realize where they stood in the pyramid?
These some good questions, man. I'm not gonna.
Yeah, of course. This is a professional podcast, man. This is
that. I don't think we're being honest enough with kids, if you ask me personally. Again, I can't speak for everyone, but the overall consensus that I'm receiving and what I'm seeing is that sometimes we sugarcoat things a little.
Yeah, if they're coming to me, I'm gonna tell them straight up.
And that's the thing.
I know that.
And that's the thing, I think, and there's no consistency there, right? If you're getting it from myself and Brian and you're not getting it from your coach, like there are instances that we had kids whose coaches were not being honest with them in terms of why they're not playing. Tell me why I'm not playing. I want to get better. I want to play.
That's
if
what
you're
I'm
not telling me why I'm not getting better, then what are we doing? At some point, you're going to have to understand your coach is your coach and my player is my player. I have to be as honest with my player for them to be better. If I'm sugarcoating stuff and I'm not telling them how to get better or why I don't think that they're playing or what I'm not seeing from them on a consistent basis, then I'm not coaching them.
Yeah, what are we doing then?
I'm not coaching you. And that's what I mean about this whole idea of everything scripted. Coaches have to understand you're dealing with human beings.
So let's take it one more step, because I know you think that Matt and I are great coaches, but we're not. We're parents. Brian, you see these parents all the time. Do the parents make the same mistake where they sugarcoat something or misunderstand where their kid really stands? And if so, what happens if a parent is, in your opinion, not honest with the kid along the way?
If the parent is not honest with the kid right away, then they're kind of setting them up for failure, really. I feel like when I'm training a kid and their parent is sugarcoating everything and they come to me and I'm doing the opposite, but then when they go back home, they're getting the sugarcoating again, he's not going to change, right? So
you see that, right? I mean, you've seen that many times.
I see it. So, and mentality is the biggest part of soccer and sports. So it's like they want him to be more aggressive. They want him to be resilient. Well, you got to be a little bit hard on him, I would think. He can't have everything handed to him. And these kids have so many resources now that they could do their own film sessions, you know? Just they need to utilize all the stuff that they have. These kids a lot of them could be really great players if they just got to put their mind to it, really. If they're obsessed, got to be obsessed.
So that's the other part about it. I don't think it's something that you can teach. You can't teach an obsession, right? No, it's just like it's something that's either in you or it's not, you know? So that's the toughest part, I think, about this new group of kids that are coming up. Funny because I would have been the complete opposite, obviously. I'm saying I want to watch myself on TV and I want to see all the things that I need to get better at. I think it's important that they do see what they do on video and stuff like that. But I think it's even more important to have that in your head when those moments happen. Because I always tell kids, and Brian says it too, it's like football is a short-term memory game, right? Especially when you make a mistake. You always want to put that memory to the side, but you never forget about it. It's something that you should revisit once the game is over. Till this day, we play on Thursdays. I go home and I think about the mistakes that I made, all the terrible passes that I made, all the wide open goals that I missed. I still have nightmares about it.
Edson, we have so much in common. I mean, this is kind of how I spend my evenings, is thinking of all the mistakes I made through the day.
It's a level, like Brian says, it's a level of it's an obsession. I don't know if you can teach it.
But Brian, I mean, this is why I'm pushing back, because you guys, Brian and Edson, your trademark as trainers, legendary trainers in the area, is that you're tough on the kids. I mean, most trainers...
Tough love.
Okay, well, I mean, where is that coming from? I mean, are you trying to set a correction course? Is it important for you that a kid knows the truth of where they are when they come to you? Or is this a unique style that you have?
Yeah, I'm just teaching them standards, I think is normal, especially for a coach. I mean, coaches are teachers too.
My thing is, if everyone has this idea that they want to get to this level, right? I always revert back to the earlier the kids learn how to deal with failure, the better everything's going to be. Because when you eventually get to this point, or the time that it takes to get to this point for some people, you're going to be dealing with a lot of failure. You're going to be dealing with a lot of people that are going to tell you the harsh truth. If you can't deal with the hard truth from your coach, I want my coaches to tell me the truth. Tell me the truth. So when I get out there, I'm good. Everything else rolls off of my back. If I can take it from the person that I trust the most in this game, who should be my coach, doesn't matter what anyone else says. Doesn't matter what else criticizes me about what I'm doing. If I can take that criticism from my coach, or if I can take that constructive criticism from my coach, then regular criticism, it is what it is. Because I feel like constructive criticism could be sometimes one of the toughest things to take.
If you're running a team training session and you've got 20 kids or 21 kids there, right, which is fairly normal for MLS next level teams, when is the coach providing that feedback, right? And how frequently do you think kids are getting that honest feedback or have that type of rapport with their coaches from what you guys see in the conversations? I think it's really hard for the coaches. I really do. Like, you have that many kids.
You have a lot to deal with, yeah.
You have a lot to deal with. You're on and off the field in 90 minutes. You know, the next team's coming on. It seems like this is not just a New York City thing. I mean, I think in any major metropolitan area, fields, logistics, time, everything's crunched, right? And then you run into these challenges where the kids don't have clarity, the parents don't have clarity. They're looking for other sources to help their kids build their technical ability and their confidence. And it's like this big hamster wheel that we're all on. What do you guys see? I mean, do you think these kids are getting what they need? Or how can they get? How do you ask a coach? Or how do you ask a trainer, where is my kid, right? Or where can I be better specifically?
I think the kid has to go up to the coach and ask them. And if not, I feel like the coaches would talk to whatever player that he thinks is struggling and trying to talk to him to build himself back up. I think maybe they might pick and choose, or, talking to whatever player that approaches them. I would never deny a player that wants to talk to me. I would always be there to talk to the player. And I would just tell them, my line is always open. You could always be comfortable to reach out to me in whatever situation we're dealing with. I just feel like communication is key. The part of being a coach is managing personalities, right? Mm-hmm. So that's part of your job, whether it's before training, after training. But I'm not saying after training or before training, every player, you go up to them, give them a review. No, maybe you see a player that was doing good and now he's falling off, then you pull him aside or something, right?
Brian, you've made a choice to develop players on a one-on-one or small group basis. Why don't you want to coach a team, your own team? Or maybe you do.
I mean, I've just seen it from afar, and I just like what I'm doing now, my own curriculum, my own style. I don't have to report to a director and do what he's telling me to do. Maybe he wants me to run sessions a certain way. And I just like what I'm doing because it's more of a intimate, it's more close-knit, so I have a better relationship with my clients. And I think it's more helpful for them when it's in that situation. For the club, and also I don't want to deal with a bunch of nagging parents too. let's be honest. I said that first.
There's no coach in this country,
that
gets paid enough to listen to nagging parents.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's just another headache that I have to deal with. I still kind of deal with it, just even in the small group training. But I feel like I can still provide just as much input into these kids' lives, whether I'm coaching a team or just doing what I'm doing too.
How often do you see kids plateau? You've worked with them for a couple of years. They're in a good team environment, and then you just see them plateau. Whether that's physically, they haven't grown, or they've grown a lot, and then they can't, their coordination is missing, or the next level of the game, it becomes too fast for them.
I remember I had there's a guy that we played with in the Cosmopolitan League. Fantastic. Lightning quick, athletic. And it was just a time where, like you said, the game caught up to him and everyone else caught up. And this is where I revert back to everyone telling you you're so good, you're so good, you're so good, but not really doing anything about it. You were stagnant the entire time, and then eventually you just became stagnant with everyone else, or everyone else just passed you. So the plateau thing, because everyone goes through ups and downs.
Yeah.
You can just find a different way of playing, a different style of playing, or a different way of playing the game. You just have to find your niche. You just have to find your way on the field. But I think that plateau part is more like, it's more the mental, like I said, everyone else caught up, and do I just suck now, or can I just get better? I think you have the choice of going through that. But I think it just depends on who you are as a person, what you've been taught.
Right, you got to find in you. You got to find that thing that makes you special.
That's it, man.
Regardless.
Yeah, I think that plateau part, I feel like within in youth soccer, that sweet age of 14 to 16 range is when I see a plateau. I think it's more
the passion or the interest or the recognition.
There are a lot of distractions at that time, right?
Yeah. I mean, I can speak for Laurent. He was definitely very distracted.
I'm still distracted. This is the longest plateau in the history of soccer. we keep this is an endless plateau. No,
it's not more. I've seen them plateau technically. It's just the passion for the game, or they're in a wrong club situation and it's not in their favor with their relationship with the coach, and then that just kills their determination to keep wanting to play. So
that's a key of what you just said. The wrong club situation, be the wrong environment. Like, how can, in both of your opinions, a parent recognize if a kid is in the wrong environment?
If he's performing in training and he's not playing in games.
But I think, but Edson, you asked that question, which I think is the right question, and I think that there's a lot of people, even people who know the game pretty well, it's hard to see unless you guys or other coaches who can look at a game and pull it apart.
As I said, I realized how broad of a question it was, because it's just like there's so many different nuances to that question. But like Brian said, I mean, if a kid is performing in training, and that's across the board, and once you're a kid, once you're a professional, if you're performing in training and you don't feel like you're getting the fair share on the field when it comes to game time, the only tough part about that is who's making that determination as to how good he's being in training, right? Is that his parents saying, oh man, he's been amazing in gym training? Or is that like the other coaches are saying like, listen, this kid's been phenomenal in training, but I don't know why he's head coaches now. That's a totally different situation.
Yeah, that second scenario I never heard of, but it's the first one that is the most likely, is that you or a parent or some other parent say, wow, he's doing great.
Well,
why
he's
is he
doing
not
so
playing?
well. It's like, but the guy that really makes the decision clearly doesn't think that. Or there's another reason.
So it's hard for me because when a parent comes to me, it's like exactly what I just said, playing good at training, but not playing games. I don't know because I'm not there.
I think of this, I mean, this is really from a parent perspective, because things ebb and flow in your kid's life. You know, they have a passion about this and that's their passion for a year or 2 years. It's more when they're younger, right? And then as they get older, there's less of those things. And like there's consistent thing that throughout their childhood, whether it's soccer or something else. I think from my point of view, I've always looked at it like, you know, there's moments where I see a burning desire or a passion. And then I don't necessarily see it in certain situations, but I don't want to put the flame out because I think the flame may reignite itself in one of these other phases, not just related to soccer, really could be related to like wanting to learn in school, right? Or whatever it may be. It's like such a delicate balance. Like you want to be honest, and I'm definitely honest, but at the same time, you don't want to shut something down because you want them to eventually find whatever that passion is.
For me, and the number one thing about everything that I'm saying, I am not a parent. You guys have to deal with that other side of it, right? We can only talk about the football side of it. You see the other side of it, like what you just mentioned. Yeah. You see a desire at times with soccer, right? We see it whenever we either see it on the soccer field or we don't see it at all because we don't see that. You guys have so much to deal with. And it's a really fine line in terms of like, how much do I push my kid and how much do I not push my kid?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some kids, lose interest because there's too much pressure on them. And that's where I come in, right? To reignite that flame that Matt was talking about. If I see someone that has lost a little bit of confidence, I'm the first one to pull them over to talk to them and keeping an eye on them, just to make sure, that they're heading on the right path. And that's why me and Edson are doing what we're doing, is because it's just more than football. We're teaching his life.
When he's still doing the session, I'll pick one kid aside, be like, listen, I get it. You're missing all your passes. It is what it is. We're here to make mistakes. Let's keep going. It's all about reading the room and finding that fire.
And that's all. It seems so simple, but that's all that's all that kid probably needed, though, in that moment.
That's
right?
it.
And then they put it behind them. They recognize that the coaches have seen it too, and then they readjust, and then the focus in their performance changes. It's not a lot, but it's very nuanced.
And that's
the timing matters.
And that's it.
And I just feel like a lot of club coaches don't do that. And it's just, to me, I think it's simple.
You do it when it happens. There's nothing wrong. You're not calling anyone out. I'm just letting you know. Or you can even do it. Let the session continue and just, again, pull that player aside for a minute. It's not a lot of words. Listen, I saw what we did. Let's fix it. Just concentrate on what we got to do. Next pass. Let's go. Sometimes kids need to be told and
reassured. Yeah.
Short-term memory game. We all mess up.
I think that's probably been one of my biggest learnings as a parent to youth athletes, which is it's so much about the confidence. And I think I even struggle to understand how to identify it early on. And now I can see when my kids are playing with confidence and they feel like they can make mistakes.
Yep.
Versus if they make a mistake, they're going to get pulled or they may not get rostered or whatever the situation is, right? Now it's very easy for me to be able to see when kids are playing with confidence and when they're not. And when that's been instilled in them, right? Like when to take a guy on 1v1 or when to get off the ball and recycle or whatever it is, as opposed to playing so systematically, which in a lot of ways, I think just kills the confidence, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely, man. It's very difficult to adjust in that situation.
You guys, Brian, especially, you don't have a big social media presence as far as the supplementary training that you guys do. I mean, Matt and I now in the life of the pod have seen trainers, we joke, with parachutes and equipment and 100,000 here and 200,000 viewers there and a lot of clips and yelling. And training with you guys always felt like you're going to like some underground club and you knew the bouncer and they let you in and something would, and it wasn't the nicest guy at the door and the place was kind of creaky and it was leaky, but it was like, man, the DJ was but the DJ was amazing.
LeRon is still scarred from standing outside the velvet rope all night.
Pretty much. The way I interpret it is that you see supplementary training or soccer, especially here as a business, too much like a theater or performance. Is that right?
Because I didn't sign up for that. I'm just here for the kids. I'm here to get them better, and that's it. And that's how I grew up. And that's what I'm taking on, rolling over to now. And it's just not me. That's just not how I want to go about it. I don't want to be worrying about setting up tripods and getting the right angles and stuff. The kids are already distracted as it is. So that's just going to add more distraction, I don't need that reassurance from people on social media to know.
I don't care.
The proof is in the pudding. I mean, if I'm trying to be an influencer, sure, yeah.
I'll tell you one thing, this podcast won't help you be that. That's a guarantee.
Perfect. The kids already had, like Maya said, there's so many things going on in their heads. They're already so distracted. The last thing I want to do is put a camera on them to be like, okay, now go.
Yeah, I've been through my series of supplementary trainers through the years, and Brian and Edson, my son really well. Yeah. I remember when I didn't know you, but somebody at Medovo years ago. Lavi was just starting, and he was a goalie, needed some footwork. Said, "Oh, there's this one guy, blah 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 blah." So Sarit, my wife, took Lavi to you, and the session was over, and I think Lavi was miserable or whatever. And then Sarit came to you and said, "Okay, let's." I want to book the next session. And you told her, no, you have to ask your son if he wants to be here at the next session.
Yeah.
Drop the mic.
If they don't want to be there, then what's the point? We're wasting time.
Yeah. And it's, I'm not, and obviously I don't take it personal if the kid doesn't want to train with me, but there's only a certain type of player that wants to train with me consistently. And then some players don't like that tough love environment and style, but I feel like that's the best way to get these kids better, not only in soccer, but, to prepare them for life. And that's what I'm here for. So I don't care about the camera or anything. My joy is reading those texts from parents that, thanking me because their son is getting better. He did this weekend. Thank you. That's what I thrive off of.
I can personally vouch for the major change you've made in my son's life. I want to thank you both for it. I hope many of our listeners those who are close by will get to experience some of it. Just don't make too many kids cry.
Come on.
That's going to be the code under our card.
I mean, we are training in Brooklyn, these kids got to have tough skin. If anything, they'll thank me when they're older.
If not now, later.
Wow.
Wow.
You actually are letting me do the first sentence in the outro. One of the biggest takeaways from this conversation is that development can't be outsourced. A trainer can guide it. A coach can shape it. A parent can support it. But the player has to own it.
Yeah, and I keep coming back to what Brian said about his own journey, that what he needed wasn't just another authority figure. It was an older brother type of mentor, someone who had been through it and could tell him the truth before he made the same mistakes. That's really the heart of the episode, because yes, the conversation is about training, but it's also about guidance, honesty, timing, and learning how to ask better questions as parents.
Not, can my kid go pro? Not, what team should we chase next? But, are they building the habits? Are they learning the game? Are they developing the mentality? And do they want it when nobody is watching?
This is a huge thanks to Coach Brian Chun and Edson Elcock for bringing this honesty, the experience, and the simplicity back into this conversation. And contrary to what Brian and Edson may want us to believe, you can still reach them on Instagram, and you should, at Football Trainer Chun and at Skill School Soccer. In Brian's style, very complicated, but you'll see it on our info and description.
So there is an Instagram account, just no shortcuts.
Yeah, no shortcuts, exactly. But apparently you can DM. All right, if this episode made you think differently about training, pressure, or your role as a soccer parent, share it with another family trying to navigate the same questions. This is Chasing the Game, Youth Soccer in America. Simple.